nicely in little piles. Now they're not in nice little piles. Isn't that just how Mondays work? The very first thing actually, the very last thing that Miss Moore did this morning before she left her house was make coffee. It's really, really hot. And when I picked it up, guess what I did? But for no reason, I just dropped the whole cup all over myself and my floor and my cabinets. I was like, oh no. So I had to clean everything up and change my clothes. And it was crazy. I thought, oh my goodness, what an unhappy Monday morning.
Did your coffee cup break?
No, crazy enough, it did not. But coffee went everywhere. It was a mess. Okay, so I have these super fun little pets that I'm going to let you have after we are finished doing our independent work after the lesson, okay? I told you I would give them to you last week. I think they are little adorable bunny erasers. So cute, right? The first thing we're going to do is talk about something that we talked about last week. Who remembers when we read this story?
Me.
Can somebody tell me what kind of a story this is? We said it was called a
fairy tale.
Let's go over our classroom expectations really quick. Emma, I need you to throw the paper clip away. It is unsafe to put it in your mouth. Thank you very much. Our classroom expectations when we are doing a group lesson are to be what? 5-star listeners. Show me what a 5-star listener looks like. Oh, I see my friends sitting on their bottoms. That's number one. I see crisscross applesauce legs. I see hands and laps. Where should your eyes be?
On teacher.
Yeah, on the teacher. And let's go ahead and turn those ears on. Turn them on. And let's zip our lips unless we are asked a question. And then we're going to what? Raise that quiet hand and I'll follow you. Yes, you do. Where'd it go? Go ahead and grab it. Aaron. We will tie shoes after the lesson because I am not going to ask you to stand up. Riley and Emma, quick.
Wait, just said Riley and Emma.
I'm super sorry. Riley and Emma. Okay. Sit down, everything. Nope, just sit down. So this is a fairy tale. Now I want to tell you that we're going to read another kind of fairy tale today. This fairy tale is what we're going to call the classic version. Remember I showed you last week all the different books that said Jack and the Beanstalk? They were all the classic version. That means they're going to have the same characters, the same setting, the same beginning, middle, and end. The details are going to be the same. The pictures might look a little bit different. The artist and the author may choose to write the story just a smidge different, but it's still going to be the classic version, and most of it's going to be the same. But this is going to knock your socks off. This is my favorite. This is my favorite kind of fairy tale. It's called a fractured fairy tale. Now, I'm going to give you the definition of a fractured fairy tale. It means that it's based on the same book, it's about the same characters, it has some of the same problems, but everything is mixed up and crazy and different. So we might recognize some of the characters, we may recognize some of the same settings, but I think we're going to realize that a lot of things have changed. Now, really, really quickly, I want to read 2 books to you. And I know that it is really, really hard for kindergartners to sit through 2 books, but I just want to refresh your memory on the details of the classic Jack and the Beanstalk, okay? You think you can say crisscross applesauce and listen to 2 stories in a row? Give me a thumbs up. Good job, Emma. Thank you. All right, this is Jack and the Beanstalk, the classic version. Now, when we read this, I want you to pay attention to the things we learned about fairy tales. Remember what we learned about fairy tales? I have our map right here. Fairy tales have characters, they have good and evil characters. They have a setting, they have a problem and a solution. They have a beginning, middle, and an end. And they have, what's this? Magic. They have magic. So let's listen to the story and listen to all those things. And see if you can hold those things in your brain. Because we're going to read the fractured version, and I'm going to have you tell me what the things are saying. Okay? Now, neither one of these are super, super long, so I really think you can do it. Once upon a time, a boy named Jack lived with his mother in a little cottage. They were very poor and only had the milk from their cow to drink. One day, the cow stopped giving milk. We need money for food, said Jack's mother. Take our cow to the market and sell her. Jack set off to the market. On the way, he met an old man who wanted to buy the cow. I'll pay you with these magic beans, said the man. They will go up to the sky. Okay, said Jack. He took the beans and gave the cow to the man. When Jack's mother found out what he had done, she was very upset. You sold our cow for a handful of beans? She cried, and she threw out the window. That night, Jack fell asleep, very unhappy. Outside rain fell on the enchanted beans. Remember we talked about that word enchanted last week, and it meant what? Somebody raise a quiet hand. Tell me what they think enchanted means. Emma? What was enchanted? Put your hand on and tell me. No, they were magic. They were magical beings. That's what enchanted means. The next morning, Jack saw that an enormous beanstalk had grown where the beans had fallen. Jack dashed outside. The towering beanstalk stretched up through the clouds. Where does it go? He wondered. Without giving it a second thought, Jack started to climb the beanstalk, climbed higher and higher until the cottage was far below. Above the clouds, Jack found a giant castle. He tiptoed into the dining room. I wonder who lives here, he whispered. There on the huge table was a big bag of shiny coins. Suddenly, the ground began to shake. Jack heard heavy footsteps. Thump, 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 thump. Jack ran and hid. An enormous giant appeared. He twitched his nose and sniffed. B-5-O-bum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread. The giant looked around and he could not see Jack. He sat down and gobbled up his food. Soon he fell fast asleep. Jack crept out from his hiding place. He grabbed a big bag full of coins and ran before long. He was climbing back down to the top. Jack and his mother were rich, but they spent too much, and soon the gold coins ran out. So Jack climbed back up the beanstalk to the castle. B-5-O-bum. I smell the blood of an Englishman, said the giant as he stroked the hand that was holding him. Just as before, the giant could not find Jack, so he gobbled up his food and fell asleep. Jack grabbed his head and climbed back down to the beanstalk. The golden eggs made Jack and his mother rich again, but Jack wanted more and climbed back up the beanstalk to the castle. Jack found the giant dozing while the golden heart beat sweet music. B-5-O-bum, muttered the giant in his sleep. Jack snatched the golden heart, but it shrieked. Master, master! The giant leaped up. He chased Jack all the way down the beanstalk. Fee, fi, fo, fum, roared the angry giant as he climbed down the beanstalk after Jack.
Live.
Mother, fetch an axe, shouted Jack when he reached the ground. With chop, 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 he cut the beanstalk down. It fell with a terrible crash, and that was the end of the angry giant. Jack and his mother kept the hen that laid golden eggs, the golden heart that played sweet music. They lived happily ever after and never saw the giant again.
What about his wife?
Oh, that's a really good observation, Riley. Maybe that's something that you can think of when we are doing our thing.
Because the old one used to have his wife.
It did. Did we read another version that had his wife?
Yeah, but
It was a little bit different. Remember I said sometimes in the classic versions of the story, there's going to be things that are the same and different. Okay, now we are going to, sorry, I just want to make sure I'm, now, how can we stick? Bryson, can you look in that, if Riley actually, that's your box, can you look in there and see if you can stick in there? So this is what we're going to do. We're going to do a little bit of our chart now, and then we're going to read our book, and then we're going to finish our chart. Once we get our glue stick, can someone tell me, in the classic version of Jack and the Beanstalk, can you give me one of the characters? Yeah. Jack, can you come up and glue Jack on our chart? Thank you, Aaron. I'm just going to put the glue on for you. So this, I want to show you our chart. So what we're making here is a little story map chart. This means we're going to pull the details out of each book and glue them up here on this chart. Okay, Brooklyn, where else are we going to put on our chart in this part that says classic version? The giant. That's right, Riley.
The mother.
The mother. Very good. All right, Riley.
The giant's wife.
Did you hear the giant's wife in the story, Bryson?
Oh, get it?
I don't get it. I don't think I've heard anything about the giant's wife. I know there were two other characters, though. Who do we think? Bryson, can you think of another important character?
Ready?
Mm-hmm. A hen. What's in there?
And the cow.
Oh, the cow. Good job, Bryson. What's the cow up there? We're going to leave the hen. There's another place on our chart. And then, Emma, there was one more important character. Can you tell me who gave the beans to Jack?
No.
I only one friending them up, and she already had a quiet hand up. It was the old man. Can you come up here and glue him? And he looks so funny because Miss Moore did not have a printed one, so I had to draw him myself. He looks like kind of like an old man and Frosty the Snowman at the same time. I wrote old man at the top, so we would know who he was.
This is Lord.
Yep.
What's the scary?
Okay. All right. You maybe you'd be really interested in this version. This is the fractured version. And it is called, listen to the title, because I'm going to ask you some really important questions about this. Trust me, Jack's Beanstalk stinks. The story of Jack and the Beanstalk as told by the giant. Emma, can you speak over one square, please? So this story is a little bit different than the classic version because we're going to hear how the giant feels about what happened. Do you think the giant thinks Jack is the good character or the evil character?
The evil character.
Well, I have one friend say good and one say evil. Let's listen and see. So this book was written by Eric Braun. He wrote the words and illustrated by Christian Bernardini. Yeah. People think it's easy being a giant. Right, back on the line and I'm going to start over. People think it's easy being a giant. You get to be rough, grumpy, and loud. You're big and tough. You have gobs of treasure. And nobody, and I mean nobody, tells you to behave. Giant life is no picnic, though. It's hard to find shoes that fit. My knees hurt from the weight of my huge body, and I am always hungry. Always. But the worst thing is, humans. You know what a human is?
No.
Brooklyn does. What's a human? You want me to tell you? It is a person. We're humans. But the giant says the worst part of being a giant is human. Humans are a part of a balanced giant breakfast. But when you're not eating them, they're a real pain. Sometimes they laugh at me behind my back. They call me stinky and fatso. They ring my doorbell and run away. Ha ha ha. Very funny.
He's good.
This boy named Jack, he was extra bold. He came up through the clouds one day while I was out gathering a small breakfast. He tricked my wife into feeding him. Then he hid inside my house. I mean, come on. Who would hide inside a human's house? That's a crime. Well, he didn't trick me. I could smell him, and he smelled delicious. Fee, fi, fo, fum, I said. In giant, that means something like, go home now. I promise I will eat you. But he stayed in his hiding spot, that little rat. This speech bubble over here, his wife is saying, maybe you smelled the kitty casserole from supper last night.
I told you he had a
I think his wife was trying to help hide Jack. That's what it sounds like. After breakfast, I took a nap like I always do. Eating makes me tired. And when I did, Jack stole a bag of gold. Humans, they're nutritious and sneaky. Sometime later, Jack came back again. And again, he tricked my wife into letting him inside. When I came home from picking up a light breakfast, I could smell him. I know who it was. The wife said, maybe you still smell the little dude's stew from supper last night. The giant said, fee, fi, fo, fum, I yelled. This can also mean give me back my gold and we'll call it even. I definitely will eat you. But he didn't come out. Do you think the giant's telling the truth? If Jack came out, you think you would eat him?
No.
I think you might. I think it's tricking him. Just like before I ate my meal, Try to forget about Jack. I relaxed with my goose, the one that lays the golden eggs, and soon I took a little snooze. Of course, that pesky boy couldn't let a guy rest. You know what he did? He stole my goose, the lousy, no good, miserable thief. The last time Jack came around, I called out, fee, fi, fo, fum. I can't, if this can even mean, darn it, I'm really angry now. My wife and I searched, but couldn't find him. I kept looking, but soon I got hungry. That's a big surprise. After breakfast, I enjoyed some lovely music. My golden harp sang to me, and the sound was even sweeter than boyberry pie. I rested my eyes a bit. I had finally forgot about Jack. The next thing you know, my heart is calling, Master, Master! Jack was running off with it, and I thundered after him. I almost caught up to him, too, but he disappeared into the clouds. And there it was, a beanstalk, a big one. Jack was climbing down it. Well, I'm a smart guy. I know a dangerous thing when I see it. I didn't want to go down there. No way. But then my heart called out again. The beanstalk shook once, twice, and then it toppled over. Jack chopped it with an axe. I fell and broke my crown. That's an old-fashioned way of saying I whacked my head real good. Even if you're a big, tough giant, that still hurts. My wife said I should forget about Jack, but sometimes I still look through the hole in the clouds. Jack and his mother got rich selling golden eggs. They fattened up real nicely. Jack got married. My golden heart sang at the wedding. It was a lovely party. I'll tell you one thing. Someday, when my crown feels better, I'm going down there and getting my stuff back. Maybe I'll grab lunch while I'm there, too. Uh-oh. What do you think about that fractured version of Jack and the Beanstalk? Did it sound a lot different than the classic version? It had a lot of the same characters, right? The giant was what? Green. The giant was green. Sometimes the artist just makes it different colors. Yeah. I do. All right, let's talk about, yes. There was an extra character. That's right. The wife of the giant was in this book. Was the wife helping Jack, or was the wife helping her husband, the giant? Or can you do that? So you go ahead and put that up here. This portion says, trust me, Jack's beanstalk stinks. This is the version we're reading right now.
It's the wife trying to help Jack.
The wife was trying to help Jack a little bit. Who else was in this story? The giant. Let's see if I can find. I know, but I need the other side of that one.
Did you have to draw her?
I did have to draw her, and I'm definitely not an illustrator like the person who illustrated this book. So we're gonna put the giant up there, the giant. Who else was in this story? Another character. I want someone to answer who has not answered yet. So Riley, put your hand up. Right? Can you tell me another character? We're gonna just talk about the people right now, and then we'll talk about the events. So we have the giant's wife and the giant. Who else was a really important part of that story? Emma, can you tell me? Who? The giant we have up there. Can you tell me, Emma? The little boy from the boat. It was the giant's wife. We already have her up there. Who's this? Who is that? Who's the story about? Yeah. Let's talk about things that were in both stories. You got glue on your fingers, I'm sorry. So in Jack and the Beanstalk and in Jack, trust me, Jack's Beanstalk stinks. Am I going to get back on the 1 and the 2? Thank you. What were some of the things that were the same? Riley. They had most of the same characters, right? The only one that was different was Jack's wife. The giant's mother. Jack did get a wife in this one, but we didn't see her. The giant's wife was in here. She was helping Jack a little bit. What happened that was the same? Emma? You think about it, Riley, and I'll come back to you. Emma, you have something to tell me about the same? They did both have hens that laid golden eggs. You want to come and glue one up for me? Brooklyn? Jack was stealing all the same things. So he took the giant hen, he took the giant bag of gold. What else did he take that belonged to the giant?
The bottle of please.
Yep, it's called a heart. Emma, I need you to sit on the 1 and the 2 every time. You want to come up with the heart up for me, Bryson, since you said it? Awesome.
I'll just say that one.
Wait, you had one of those.
A monster in the back.
There is.
And why?
So I'm going to glue the hen up in this middle because someone already said it, but we glued it over there. Now, Bryson, back on the camel. Let me ask you a couple of questions. And then I'm going to send you back to your desk to work on something all by yourself. I'm going to ask you a question. In Jack and the Beanstalk, where was the setting in the first version? Brooklyn? It was at Jack's house. Most of it was at Jack's house. That's where it started, right? Where was the setting in Jack's Beanstalk Stinks, Riley? Where did it happen? Remember the setting is where the book takes place, where it happened? It was at the giant's house, right? We didn't go to Jack's house. What was the problem in both stories? What was the problem in both stories, Emma? Yeah, the giant was going down the beanstalk because Jack was taking his stuff, right?
Yeah, he got scared.
But what? He did. The giant did get a little bit scared. He did not want to go down, but he went to save his heart. He was screaming for him. So let's talk about the solution. That's where the biggest difference was. In our stories, the first story was about Jack as the good or the bad character. Was Jack the good guy or the bad guy in the first story?
Good guy.
Aaron says he was the good guy. second story, was he the good guy? He was the bad guy. Do you think, listen, let me ask you this. Do you think that who is telling the story makes the difference about the solution and who the problem and the solution? I think so too, Brooklyn, because if I told you a story and then this Jay told you a story, you might think they happen completely different, right? And it's the same thing. The giant, he thought he was the good guy in the second story, and the first one, Jack thought he was the good guy. Emma? Yeah. In some versions, Jack is the main idea. He's the good guy, and in some stories, the giant's the main idea, and he's the good guy, right? So this is what we're gonna do. You're gonna go to your seat, you're gonna get your crayon boxes, and you're going to, and I think we're actually gonna have to wait to do this after lunch because it's lunchtime and then you're gonna get a special. But I'm gonna tell you really quickly what you're gonna do. This says Jack's point of view, so you're gonna draw the same event, the same thing that happens in both stories. You're going to draw how Jack thinks it happened in this side and how the giant thinks it happened in this side. This is giant's point of view. That means what the giant thinks happened, and this means what Jack thinks happened. So go ahead, go wash your hands. You can. You did fantastic. Go wash your hands. Look, Riley. Stop. Look away from the camera.
Look, Miss Smart. See the tails walk.